I was on Reddit today and I noticed that a lot of people don't understand how many functions are available in the calculator app. My last video was for Windows 8 in 2014 or 15 or so. So let's take a look at all these functions that are now available on the Windows 10 calculator app. Just to let you know, we're not going to go into the detailed stuff in the programmer or scientific to explain each and every function, just a general overview. So first I'm going to cover the standard calculator features you might see in other calculators, the history and the memory functions. And to do that, we're going to click on mode 9 and times 5 equals 45. And look over here, you'll see history. It's not memory, it's history of what you've done. So let's click on minus 7 and say equal again. And you see another step shows up. Okay, and then continuing on, let's click on plus 2, and we get a 40, and it adds it again to our steps here. So we're going to divide by 20 to get 2. It's very simple. Nice clean history of each and every step. Now that's all well and good, but what does that do for us? Well, if you click here, one step back, it replaces your current, where you're at in your calculation, with whatever you click on there. So if I click on 40, I'm at 40, and I continue with a different calculation. I can say divided by 10. I'm down to 4. And I can continue this calculation or changes these calculations, but it always gives me a history of where I started from, what I did in the steps. If I reverted into the last step, it even gives me each and every number that I used in that calculation that's showing at that time. So one more time, I can go here, add in 5, I'm up to 3. I can, again, stay there, start a whole new calculation, go back to different steps to see where I've gone wrong or if I'm doing the right one, or try different scenarios out. Click on that and start back from there. So you have basically an infinite number of possibilities to get up to the calculation you want and go back to do all that. And once you're done with that, you can clear it, and that'll clear that particular total right there. And you'll go back to 0 basically. Okay, but you notice your history is still here, still that. You can still go back and click on one of those to do it. And you can go back to that step. Now, if you're all done, you can just go off and do something else. But at the bottom here, you'll see a delete, and watch your history. Boom, it's all gone. Okay, before we leave the standard calculator here, we're going to talk a little bit more about some other stuff. We're going to clear out the history. We're going to talk a little bit here about the ones on the left, the little algebraic type of function. So let's take 5 times 3, and that's equal to 15, obviously. Okay, but what if that's not what we wanted? We wanted it by 3%. You could do percentages yourself in your head, but you go by times 3, and you hit click the percent. You see it's already converted that to a percentage. So we click on that, and it's worth 15 hundredths. So that's really quick how to do that. So some of the more simple algebraic calculations is, let's say 15. Now I want to know the square root of 15 for some reason, or any number. 3.8722, blah, 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 blah. So there it is. That's how you get square root, that simple. Let's clear that out. Let's now look at the square of 1 is 1. Okay, let's clear that out. Do a square of 15. It's 225. So clearing that out, let's go to the cube of 15. So we get there, clear that. 15 cubed is 3,375. And lastly, we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to clear this out. Go here, we want to find the inverse of 15. We'll click that. And there it is, 666,666. So that's it for that, for all your basic mathematical functions. Okay, if you have already used memory and regular calculators, this is much different, but let's cover it. Let's say we want 15 times 3 is 45. It's here in my history on the right, okay? But I want to add it to memory. To do that, I simply go over here where it says memory add, click on that, and if I click on memory, the number, not the actual formula, but just that number is added to the memory. Okay, now that I have 45 here in the memory, I'm going to do another number. I'm going to clear that. It's still here in the memory. And we're going to, and by the way, the formula is still here in history. But let's go here and say 15 times 5. Okay, 75. Again, I can do different things. I can do a memory, clear memory. Don't want that. Don't want to recall memory. Memory add. Let's see what happens when we click on that. When we click on that, it actually adds the numbers together. It doesn't keep the formula again or history. It takes that number and puts it in there. Because there's our history of our two numbers, and they add up to 120. So now let's look at something different for your memory function. So I'm going to clear that entry. I'm going to put an 80 here. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I hit the plus sign, so it's waiting for something to add. I'm going to recall the 120 from memory, and then plus equals, and I get 200 here as my total. And there it is in the history, 80 plus the 120 from memory. So now that I have that, I can look at my memory. I have my calculation here. I can add it actually into memory. I didn't show it here, but I clicked on the plus to add it to it. And I have both values, and I can manage them, by the way. I can clear them. I can add it to a memory item. I can subtract from memory item. All that stuff I can recall. But this is the one that stored numbers in memory just directly from the input. So you see, notice here I clicked on it while it's there. And I can clear on it, and I can add it back in. So memory is pretty powerful about what you can do. So to go over it a little bit again, let's enter in another number, 50. I want to add it to memory. It's now 250 up there. Okay. Memory stores it as an individual number up there. And once I do that, I can do almost anything. Let's go add a couple more numbers to memory. Store in the 75, store in the 78. Okay, now I want to add something to that number, that 78. Okay, I simply click on the number and I add it to it. Now 78 becomes 118. So I guess that's enough about memory functions. We can click on add and subtract and all that, or here, or recall and all that. Just play around with it a little bit and you'll get the hang of it. So now we get into the real fun stuff. We're talking about the standard. We're going to switch over to scientific. Now I'm not going to go into all the different functions here. I probably can't remember. It's been a few years. But we're going to talk a little bit more about using those, because if you're using scientific, I expect you to understand that. But look what's happened. There's nothing in history, but there is still in memory. Let's go back and click on the hamburger menu again. Go back to standard. History is still there. So memory transverses what function you're in. Because we go back to scientific, there is no history. But again, there is memory. Well, let's do one more. Let's do scientific notation power of 10. Let's click on that. Basically, we're going to take a number like 2, and then we're going to, let's multiply it by 2. That's the power of 10. So that means 10 times 10, which is 100. And I can say equals, and now I'm taking the two calculations, and I get my result of 200. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, you can add it to the memory. There's the history of what we did, but we can add it to memory. We can clear memory. We can do all the memory functions here, just like anything else. If you need to do some sort of scientific calculation, you can add it in to the memory totals as well. Do remember you're adding in just the value. History has the number of steps and what they were. Memory has just the value. So moving on. Well, you know what? Let's do one or two more. Let's do the square. The square of 280 is 78,400. And I've cleared that out to have 200 there. And I want to, there's pi. So I want to, well, let's just do it add pi. And 3.14 plus 200 is 203.14. So you can add in certain calculations that way. And there's our old number, by the way, still there at 200. That was there before. So before I lose somebody in the presentation, or lose myself here where I'm at in the presentation, let's move on. So play around with these a little bit, especially if you're using these every day. Oh, and by the way, if you want to change the value of a number from negative to positive, you don't have to re-enter it. Just click this and it reverses the number that's there. Although I'm a programmer, I very rarely have used the programmer calculator. It's really more for the, I'm guessing, the heavy-duty guys. Plus, you can find things on the internet. There's some conversion things you can do here, but if, there's a lot here you can use, I would just play around with it again. You can even type in values here and do different kind of conversions. You notice that when you change it, it changes to allowable entries to input your numbers that you need to use. Well, if you're like most of us, you're wondering the difference between two dates, 6 months out from now or whatever. You notice that it'll tell you the difference between dates or add and subtract days. Okay, so let's start here. Today's June 18th. I can select a date here, a different date than what the start date is, 2, and I can go here and I can say, any time in the future. It's 1 week and 4 days until June 29th, 11 days. I can go here and add and subtract days, and I can go in here and say add or subtract days from June 18th. So let me go back 52 days. It was April 27, 2019. So basically, it's a handy little section of the app here that lets you figure out between dates. You can do months, dates, years, dates in between. Okay, moving on from date calculations, let's go to the converters. First one being currency. Let's click on that. It comes up as United Kingdom. Don't beat me up because it's supposed to be euros, at least for now. Let's go ahead and change that. Let's go ahead and find something else to use. Oh, let's go Sweden. Okay, so I'm going to put in the United States dollars. $200 is 1,904 Sweden kronas. By the way, down here, it gives you the conversion rate, what date and time it was updated, and you'll notice that is what my system's at. You click on there and it'll update the rates to the most current rates. Make sure you're not operating off of old data. So again, if I put in United States dollars, Sweden comes up to that. So let's try one we're not so familiar with. Well, depends. Let's go, well, not to be too political, but let's see how good old Venezuela is doing. Let me get to that. And there it is. Our $200 is worth 1,246,100 of Venezuelan currency. Okay, let's go from currency. Volumes next. And again, 2 different settings here to choose from. We'll click on here, let's say, and let's go to, let's enter a number first. 55 milliliters is US teaspoons. Or there we want to go to tablespoons. Or how many cups. Or how many cubic or gallons. Cubic inches. Okay? And again, you can change those. By the way, down here is the about for several different values. I love these little things at the end. You'll see this one is 0.23 coffee cups is an estimate. So you just do that. This one's bathtubs now. Let's go teaspoons. Nope, still bathtubs. So that's volume. Let's move on to the next one. So except for maybe the British and us, and I'm not sure other countries, a lot of people on different length measurements, but we're going to go with yards here and inches. And using the drop downs, we can convert any of these to different values. And you get the about down at the bottom again, but the meters, yards, feet, millimeters, 17 hands. Helpful for horse people trying to figure that out. So next up is weight and mass. So let's change to that. And we see here we have pounds versus kilograms. We enter a number in, it tells us what that is. We have the select basically what you want to have as far as the other measurement. Again, about equals to, oh, now we have soccer balls, 57.68 soccer balls in mass. Okay, temperatures. We're going to switch from weight and mass to temperatures. And good old Celsius and Fahrenheit conversions here. You click on one, select your value here, and get the result there. So we notice that 0 is 30 degrees Fahrenheit. And if we put a value in, it gives us the one at the other one. And how many Kelvin it is. You can actually click on here and select that as a selection. But there's your temperature conversions. Okay, on to energy. We go to temperature, energy. You can see we have food calories and joules. You can click on this. Again, electron volts, foot pounds, you name it. Let's go ahead and put in that. Let's change electron volts to joules. Let's change thermal calories to food calories. I'm sure somebody will find this useful. Great little conversion here. Now I'm sure the people that deal with land mass and different things will find this helpful. We can go to square meter, square feet. We can change square inches. Let's go ahead and put that in and say how many hectares that is, which is not very much. But it comes in handy to figuring out the area of inches to centimeters or hectares or heck, who knows. Well, if you're planning that trip to a foreign country, you may want to know if they're using kilometers per hour or miles per hour. Again, there you are. There's miles per hour. Let's click on that. 55 is 88 kilometers per hour. This would have been helpful in the 70s in Spain when I was there. All right, we're always worried about time, if we're going to run out of it or not. So let's change over here on time and exactly how many minutes are in a certain number of hours. Well, 60 minutes is equal to 1 hour, but we can change that to how many seconds, milliseconds, whatever. Comes out pretty easily convert these values, especially if you have some odd numbers you want to do. Okay, power. Now we're talking about real power, the kind of Tim Allen kind of power. So if we go over here, there's horsepower to kilowatts. Okay, kilowatts. Let's say watts to kilowatts. And surprisingly enough, if we type in 55, we get 55,000 because kilo means watts. So, but you can do horsepower. You can do BTUs. Down at the bottom, you notice we have train engines down there now. As a conversion. Okay, if you're ever confused how many gigabytes versus megabytes versus whatever, here's one for you. You can simply put in a number here. And let's do 55 megabytes is 0.055 gigabytes. Let's do a little bit bigger thing here. 1,000 megabytes is 1 gigabyte. Pretty simple. There's megabits, megabits, gigabits. Gigabytes, bytes. So anyways, all the bytes you possibly want converted right here. Okay, next up is pressure. Okay, how many atmospheres are in bars or vice versa. Millimeters of mercury, pounds per square inch. All of you pressure type people out there, a little handy tool for you to get your job done. I would like to say best for last, but I have no idea. This might come in handy for a very number of professions. It tells you how many degrees in radians and gradians if you use that. Not much use for a common everyday guy, but you never know. So there you have it, Windows calculator, much more than just a calculator. You have all these different functions and conversions and all that. Standard calculator, scientific programmer, all these things that can help you out pretty much in a lot of different professions. So take a look at it, play with it, learn the memory functions. They can really be helpful each and every day. Hey, if you found this video helpful, don't forget to like this video. And if you want to get more, just subscribe to Old Guy Geek. You can also follow me at Facebook or Twitter. The links to those are in the description of this video.